voices of peaceful protest are being hijacked. It appears the violence is planned, organized, and driven by anarchic and left extremist groups. It is a federal crime to cross state lines to incite or participate in violent rioting, and we will enforce those laws.
Attorney General Bill Barr promising action against out-of-state rioters who he says hijacked protests around the country with planned violence. But will federal charges be enough to deter these so-called outside radicals? Former federal prosecutor Francey Hakes is here with more insight. Francey, good morning to you. What do you make about what the Attorney General is just saying?
Well, Griff, Attorney General Barr is a very serious prosecutor, and I think he's taking these riots very seriously, and he's threatening federal prosecution. I don't know whether it will really act as a deterrent, but it is a crime to either cross state lines or use a facility of interstate commerce, and I think that's the important clause, use a facility of interstate commerce. So you don't have to prove rioters are traveling in from other states in order to have federal prosecution. You can merely show that they are using mobile phones and mobile phone platforms to plan the riots or encourage the riots or incite the riots or participate in the riots to be guilty of a federal crime that carries up to 5 years in prison.
Right, and you're talking there, it's 18 U.S. Code 2101, and I've watched them try and prosecute some of the protesters on that very sort of grounds here in Washington in the wake of the president's inauguration when you had these groups come into D.C. And of course, we've seen failed prosecutions or lack thereof following Ferguson, Baltimore, and others. When are we actually going to crack down and charge people?
Well, I think if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Bill Barr. And I think you're right, Griff. Someone needs to be prosecuted. This is taking the murder of George Floyd and exploiting it for purposes that I don't think anyone really thinks are helpful in this entire debate and discussion. In fact, these people are simply looting and destroying property. They should be prosecuted, and I certainly hope they are. You've got people in New York destroying things, throwing Molotov cocktails at police officers, which could result in their death. I don't think people really want to see murders happen in reaction to what is clearly a criminal act against George Floyd.
Let me ask you, Francey, if an individual or individuals sympathetic to ISIS or Al-Qaeda injured 33 officers in New York City, destroyed 47 vehicles in one night, what would they be charged with?
Well, there would be a lot of charges there. I mean, it's criminal charges, it's domestic terrorism. That would potentially be foreign terrorism. But there's really not much difference between foreign terrorists and domestic terrorists. It's just a matter of where they're from. Their actions are equally repugnant and equally criminal, and they should be treated just the same.
How hard, then, is it to get, whether you're talking about a domestic terrorism charge or, in this case, the inciting a riot charge, how hard is it to see it all the way through to the point that these individuals see jail time?
Well, that's the difficult part, Griff, because you've not only got to prove the case, and you've got a lot of people wearing masks. So proof in and of itself is going to be difficult in these cases. But assuming you can find the proof, you then have to convince a jury of 12 people, their peers, that what they did was criminal and that it was serious and that they should be held accountable. And then you have to hope the judges actually impose a serious sentence. And I think swift justice, sure justice, and firm justice here might dissuade people from acting in this way in the future.
Well,
I sure hope so.
You talk about dissuading them. Right now, the message that these rioters are hearing is, it's okay, light that police car on fire. It's okay, smash that window. Sadly, they're hearing it's okay to take shots with real guns at police officers in cities like Minneapolis that have had it for the last several nights. What do you think the message should be to these rioters?
Well, that's a terrible message, Griff, and a great point. What happened to George Floyd is not okay. Crime is never okay, whether it is committed by criminals, police, military, or anybody else. And here you have people acting out in a criminal way, destroying property, putting people's lives at risk, and assaulting people, and they should be held accountable criminally, just like those who caused the death of George Floyd should be.
Francey Hakes, thanks for joining us today. Good points. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Griff.